Chapter 41-24. Lu Ming was really shocked. According to Sheng Qiao, all the relics that seemed to contain occult skills had been destroyed. Didn't that mean that their trip to the archaic world this time was in vain? They wouldn't be able to get anything. This situation was very different from the information given by the Heavenly Palace. Lu Ming knew that the Heavenly Palace sent people here 500 stellar years ago, but 500 stellar years had passed in the archaic world. After 500 stellar years of evolution, many things had changed greatly. It seemed that the information given by the Heavenly Palace was useless. They had to make new judgments based on the information they had now. "Can you take me to the next relic? I want to take a look," Lu Ming said. Of course. Sheng Qiao agreed readily. She couldn't wait to be with Lu Ming. Not for anything else, but mainly because she could learn more about the outside world by being with Lu Ming. Even if she couldn't go out, she could at least listen. In the next 10 days, they went to 2 ancient relics in a row. These 2 relics had places that seemed to contain occult skills, but they were all destroyed. They couldn't see the contents at all. Who was the one who destroyed the contents of the book? Was it someone from the archaic world? Lu Ming couldn't help but ask again. I don't think so. It's said that the contents were destroyed a long time ago. However, some people speculate that the contents on these stone tablets and stone walls are witchcraft. They were destroyed by the people of the Sorcerer God Temple, Sheng Qiao said. But before Sheng Qiao finished, the expressions of the white ape and the others changed drastically. "Miss, please be careful with your words," the white ape said hurriedly. Its eyes darted around, looking very nervous. "Witchcraft? The Sorcerer God Temple?" Lu Ming was even more confused. These 2 words were not mentioned in the information given by the Heavenly Palace. The Heavenly Palace shouldn't have hidden anything from them, because it wouldn't benefit the Heavenly Palace. The Heavenly Palace's purpose in sending them to the archaic world was to search for occult skills. The more occult skills they found, the better it would be for the Heavenly Palace. Therefore, the Heavenly Palace wouldn't hide it from them. Since the Heavenly Palace wouldn't hide it from them, it meant that 500 stellar years ago, witchcraft and the Sorcerer God Temple didn't exist in the archaic world. This was a new development. "What are witchcraft and the Sorcerer God Temple?" asked Lu Ming. Well, the giant white ape and the others hesitated. They seemed to be very afraid and did not dare to say anything. "Don't worry, I'll just to find out," Lu Ming said. "Don't worry, I'll just to give you an introduction." Sheng Qiao was very brave. After telling the Heavenly Palaces to the Heavenly Palace, he began to explain. "Witchcraft is the attack, defense, speed, and so on that we practice. Legend has it that in ancient times, there were a lot of witchcraft in these ruins. Unfortunately, they were all wiped out. Now, if anyone wants to practice witchcraft, they can only learn it from the Sorcerer God Temple." Sheng Qiao explained. "Witchcraft? Is this occult skill?" Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. "You used witchcraft when you fought with me?" asked Lu Ming. "Yes, what about it?" said Sheng Qiao. Lu Ming was sure that the witchcraft Sheng Qiao was talking about was occult skill. Because what they used before was occult skill. "What's with the Sorcerer God Temple?" asked Lu Ming again. "The Sorcerer God Temple is the Sorcerer God Temple. Anyway, the archaic world is ruled by 2 Sorcerer God Temples. The Sorcerer God Temple controls all witchcraft. If anyone wants to practice witchcraft, they can only get it from the Sorcerer God Temple," said Sheng Qiao. "The Sorcerer God Temple. Could it be that the occult skills in these ruins were all destroyed by the Sorcerer God Temple?" Lu Ming came to this conclusion. At first, he thought that these occult skills were destroyed by the people from the Heavenly Palace 500 years ago. He thought that the people from the Heavenly Palace had recorded them and then destroyed the occult skills to prevent others from knowing about them. However, he later refuted this speculation because Sheng Qiao said that all the occult skills in the ruins were destroyed. The Heavenly Palace clearly did not get all the occult skills back then. They only got a part of it. Otherwise, they would not have sent them here. Therefore, it was obvious that it was not the people from the Heavenly Palace who destroyed them. There was only one possibility, the Sorcerer God Temple. The Sorcerer God Temple destroyed all the occult skills in the ruins and then controlled all the occult skills. Controlling all the occult skills meant that they controlled the entire archaic world. If anyone wanted to practice the occult skills, they would have to get them from the Sorcerer God Temple. It seems that I have to get the occult skills from the Sorcerer God Temple if I want to get them, Lu Ming thought to himself. He then asked Sheng Qiao for more information about the Sorcerer God Temple. There were 2 Sorcerer God Temples in the archaic world. One was the Great Sorcerer God Temple and the other was the Ancient Sorcerer God Temple. It was obvious that they separated the word archaic from the archaic celestial court and used one word each. According to Sheng Qiao's introduction, the 2 Sorcerer God Temples were hostile to each other. For countless years, they had been fighting and killing each other for the control of the archaic world. However, the 2 Sorcerer God Temples were equal in strength. They each occupied half of the archaic world. After so many years of fighting, there was no clear winner. The area they were in now was the territory of the Ancient Sorcerer God Temple. It was ruled by the Ancient Sorcerer God Temple. Mu Yun, you came to this world to get the occult skills, right? You can come back with us to West Raven City. Soon, the Sorcerer God Temple's sorcerer emissary will descend on West Raven City and pass down a part of the occult skills. You might be able to get something then, Sheng Qiao invited. The giant white ape was anxious. It secretly warned Sheng Qiao not to bring Lu Ming back so as to avoid trouble. However, Sheng Qiao ignored it. Sure, of course I can. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and nodded in agreement. During this time, they had met other people from the archaic world on the way. When they saw Lu Ming, they quickly realized that Lu Ming was not from this world. However, they were not hostile and did not have the intention to attack Lu Ming. They just looked at him curiously. This made Lu Ming certain that the people of this world were not hostile to the Heavenly Palace. They treated the events of ancient times as legends. Therefore, Lu Ming could go to the cities of this world without worry. However, Lu Ming still asked Sheng Qiao and the others if there was any way to hide his outsider's aura. He did not want to be surrounded by people wherever he went. There is a kind of occult skill that can let you emit some of this world's aura. However, the effect is limited. Once you attack or meet someone with a higher cultivation than you will be easily seen through. Sheng Qiao said. It's okay. It's good that you have it. I can exchange it with treasures, Lu Ming said hurriedly. Chapter 41-25. It was better than nothing. He did not need to be surrounded by a group of curious onlookers wherever he went. There's no need for an exchange. It's not too precious. I'll give it to you for free. Sheng Qiao took out a jade talisman and handed it to Lu Ming. Thank you very much. Lu Ming did not stand on ceremony. He took it and scanned it with his spiritual sense. He already understood the contents of the jade talisman. It was indeed an ordinary secret technique. This secret technique did not change his aura. It was just a disguise technique. It drew in the external power of this world and covered his body with it. It could be used as a disguise to a certain extent. If one's cultivation base was lower than his, it would be difficult to tell without careful observation. Even if one's cultivation base was higher than his, it would not be by much. Without careful observation, it would not be easy to tell. However, once he attacked and his aura erupted, his disguise would be useless. It was better than nothing. Immediately, Lu Ming began to comprehend it. In just an hour, Lu Ming had successfully comprehended it. He activated the secret technique, and a force from the space was drawn over by him. It covered his body and concealed his original aura. How did he master a sorcery technique so quickly? What kind of speed is that? Sheng Qiao, the giant white ape, and the others stared at Lu Ming with their mouths agape. They had never seen anyone master a sorcery technique so quickly, even though it was only a low-level sorcery technique. Naturally, they did not know how terrifying Lu Ming's comprehension was. They did not know how many secret skills Lu Ming had cultivated. There were a total of 5,000 types of ordinary secret skills and other ancient secret skills. To Lu Ming, cultivating ordinary secret skills was a piece of cake. It was very easy for him to reach the entry level. He could do it within an hour. Of course, it would still take some time to cultivate them to greater mastery. Let's go, Lu Ming said. At that moment, Sheng Qiao and the others came to their senses as if they had just woken up from a dream. After that, they did not continue to the other ruins. Instead, they went to West Raven City together. West Raven City was considered a top-tier city in the territory ruled by the ancient sorcerer temple. There were only 13 top-tier cities like this in the entire ancient sorcerer temple. West Raven City was very prosperous. Countless creatures lived there. People came and went on the streets. However, Lu Ming discovered that there were very few people with higher cultivation than him. He walked around the streets a few times but didn't find many. Moreover, these few people with higher cultivations than him wouldn't stare at him specifically, so they wouldn't easily discover that he wasn't from the Archean world and had come from the outside world. As for Emperor God experts, there were even fewer of them. They were extremely rare. For example, the giant white ape was already one of the top powerhouses in West Raven City. The Sheng family was one of the 3 great families in West Crow City. They were very powerful and occupied a large area with many palaces. Lu Ming told Sheng Qiao not to make a fuss. So, when they arrived at the Sheng residence, Sheng Qiao arranged a courtyard for Lu Ming. It was very quiet and no one would disturb them. Lu Ming stayed for the time being. In a secret chamber in the Sheng residence, several elderly figures were discussing matters. One of them was the giant white ape. The other 7 were the senior members of the Sheng family. One of them was the patriarch of the Sheng family, Sheng Qiao's grandfather. The others were the grand elders of the Sheng family. Each of them was a celestial emperor. What? Someone from the outside world? After hearing the white giant ape's report, the others were all shocked, their faces filled with shock. That's right. It's true. The young mistress has invited that person back to the Sheng family. He is staying in the courtyard on the west side. The white ape said. I didn't expect it. I really didn't expect the legend to be true. There really is a bigger world outside our world, one of the old grand elders sighed. Tell us about your encounter with that outsider, the patriarch of the Sheng family said. Immediately, the white ape told them about their encounter with Lu Ming, as well as Lu Ming's purpose in coming to this world. You're saying that he is only a 7th-level godly emperor, but his combat ability is above yours? The patriarch of the Sheng family and the others were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. They knew very well how far a 7th-level godly emperor was from an emperor god. They had never dreamed that someone could cross such a long distance to fight. According to legends, the outside world is more advanced than the great ancient world. There are more strong cultivators, and their legacies are longer. There are as many geniuses as there are clouds. It seems that it's true. Our great ancient world has never had a genius like that. We don't even have half as strong as him, let alone close to him. The outside world is really terrifying. The patriarch of the Sheng family sighed. Patriarch, it's been a long time, and no one from the outside world has come here. This time, they suddenly came. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. Now that the young mistress has invited them to the Sheng family, I'm not sure. Patriarch of the Sheng family has to decide. The ancestors of the outside world and the great ancient world have a great grudge against each other. But it's been a long time, and the grudge is long gone. Moreover, they seem to have come here for witchcraft. I don't think we need to make a big fuss. It won't be long before the emissary of the shaman god's temple will descend to West Raven City and bestow a new shaman art. After the ceremony is over, we'll report the situation of the outside world to the shaman god's temple and let them make the decision, the patriarch of the Sheng family said. You're right, patriarch. The others nodded. Of course, there was another reason why they didn't dare to act rashly, Lu Ming's strength. According to the giant white ape, Lu Ming was able to suppress the giant white ape by a little with his own combat ability. However, Lu Ming still had a trump card that he hadn't used yet. The white ape said that Lu Ming's trump card was very powerful. If he used it, he wouldn't have a chance to survive. The trump card he was talking about was naturally the Gale Pearl. In the following days, Lu Ming lived a carefree life. Sheng Qiao came to him every day to ask about the outside world. Lu Ming could only talk about a few things and deal with it. Fortunately, Lu Ming had seen a lot along the way. Sheng Qiao was envious of him and looked forward to it. At first, Lu Ming wanted to see if he could buy some secret techniques in West Crow City. However, he soon learned that witchcraft was taboo in the great ancient world. It couldn't be bought or sold. If the witch god temple found out, it would be dangerous. Sheng Qiao had already violated the taboo by giving Lu Ming the secret technique to hide his aura. The white ape wanted to stop it. However, this secret technique was only a low-level one. It was insignificant and didn't have much use. That was why the white ape didn't stop it in the end. Of course, if it was some other useful secret technique, Sheng Qiao wouldn't dare to teach it even if he was brave. Secret techniques, or witchcraft, had to be approved by the witch god temple. Chapter 41-26. Time flew, and soon, it was time for the emissaries of the ancient sorcerer temple to arrive. Today was the busiest day in West Raven City. The central square of West Raven City was packed with people and was very lively. The three patriarchs of West Raven City sat in 3 different areas. However, there was a seat in the middle that was left unoccupied. It was reserved for the emissaries of the sorcerer temple. Everyone waited quietly. About 2 hours later, suddenly, a vortex appeared in the sky far away. The vortex emitted a dazzling light, and then, one figure after another appeared. There were a total of 8 figures of different ages. Some were old, and some were young. They wore clothes of different colors, but their faces were cold and arrogant as if they were looking down on the world. The emissaries are here. Go and welcome them. Quick. The experts of the 3 patriarchs did not dare to delay and quickly flew to the front of the 8 emissaries. The Sheng family of West Raven City respectfully welcomes the 8 emissaries. The Wang family of West Raven City respectfully welcomes the 8 emissaries. The Niu family of West Raven City respectfully welcomes the 8 emissaries. The experts of the 3 patriarchs bowed respectfully. The 3 patriarchs need not be so courteous. An old emissary of the sorcerer temple waved his sleeves and said indifferently, "Emissaries, please take your seats." The patriarch of the Sheng family quickly said, "Please, please, please." The patriarchs of the other 2 families also quickly said. The experts of the 3 families welcomed the 8 emissaries to the central square and let them sit in the most dazzling seats. Then, someone immediately served wine and delicacies to the 8 emissaries. Naturally, there were people who secretly offered gifts. Although the 8 emissaries were here to impart witchcraft, it did not stop them from receiving some benefits and enjoying themselves. After 3 rounds of wine, the banquet finally ended. All right, let's begin the witchcraft teaching. Let the youths of West Raven City come up and see who is fated with witchcraft. The one who spoke was the old emissary of the sorcerer temple. Yes. The patriarchs of the 3 families quickly responded and immediately passed down the order. Immediately, a large group of youths flew up and arrived in front of the emissaries of the sorcerer temple. There were the youths of the 3 families and the young prodigies of other forces in West Raven City. This time, they were mainly here to impart secret techniques to the youths. Sheng Qiao also went up. Lu Ming sat below and watched with curiosity in his eyes. What a strange race. What race are these messengers from the Sorcerer Palace? Lu Ming was very curious. This was because Lu Ming could not identify the races of the 8 messengers of the Sorcerer God Temple. Although they were in human form, their auras were very unique. Lu Ming had never seen them before. He felt that the 8 envoys of the Sorcerer God Palace were not living beings. But it didn't seem like a metallic life form. It was very strange. Lu Ming watched quietly. At this moment, the discussion on the imparting of witchcraft had already begun. The old messenger of the Sorcerer God Temple took out a statue. Then, all the young people knelt down respectfully in front of the statue with pious looks on their faces. Suddenly, the statue lit up and a ball of light flew out from within. It was the size of a longan fruit and flew towards one of the young men. It entered the young man's forehead and disappeared. The young man was overjoyed and bowed respectfully to the statue. As for the experts of the Nyo family, a smile appeared on their faces. Obviously, that young man was from the Nyo family and had already obtained the witchcraft. However, this was not the end. Following that, a few more balls of light flew out from the statue and flew towards a few young men. They flew into their forehead and disappeared. Obviously, those balls of light were witchcraft. Each ball of light represented a type of witchcraft. This is a type of spiritual imprint, Lu Ming whispered. After careful observation, he realized that those balls of light were very similar to spiritual imprints. It was reasonable for a spiritual imprint to contain a type of secret technique. The imparting of witchcraft was that simple. After that, balls of light flew out from the statue continuously. In the end, a total of 108 balls of light flew out, representing 108 types of witchcraft that had been imparted. However, there were more than 108 young people present. Naturally, many of them had not obtained the witchcraft imparted to them. Some of the young people had obtained more than one type of witchcraft imparted to them. For example, Sheng Qiao had obtained 3 types of witchcraft. This was very enviable. Those who did not obtain the witchcraft were very upset. Alright, the imparting of witchcraft is over. We should leave. The old messenger of the sorcerer shrine took the statue and announced the end of the ceremony. Farewell, messengers. Immediately, a sound like a tsunami was heard in the plaza. The 8 messengers were expressionless. They nodded indifferently and turned around to leave. However, before they left, the old messenger glanced at Lu Ming. Then, he turned around and continued walking. In the blink of an eye, he had disappeared from the plaza. Hey! What did that glance mean? Lu Ming's spiritual sense was extremely sharp. He had noticed that the old messenger had glanced at him. Could it be that he has discovered that I am from the outside world? Lu Ming's heart stirred. That was very possible. The old messenger of the sorcerer shrine had a very high cultivation level. He was definitely an Emperor Supreme God. Moreover, he might not be an ordinary Emperor Supreme God. His secret technique could prevent others from detecting him, but it could not prevent the old man from detecting him. However, Lu Ming was not too concerned. He already knew that he would be discovered. After all, the people of this world were not hostile to them. After the messenger of the sorcerer shrine left, the crowd dispersed. Lu Ming returned to the courtyard of the Sheng family. How should I sneak into the sorcerer shrine? Lu Ming frowned as he pondered. It seemed that he had to go to the sorcerer shrine if he wanted to get a large number of secret techniques, even ancient ones. The secret techniques passed down by the sorcerer shrine today were just ordinary ones. Lu Ming guessed that there must be some ancient secret techniques in the sorcerer shrine. However, they should be of a higher level. Lu Ming was thinking about how to get into the sorcerer shrine and get a large number of secret techniques. However, Lu Ming could not think of any effective way even after thinking for a while. I will read up on the information about the ancient world and the sorcerer shrine. After a few days, I will leave the Sheng family and West Raven City. I will go to the sorcerer shrine alone and see if there is a chance, Lu Ming thought. After that, he went to look for Sheng Qiao to get some information about the ancient world and the sorcerer shrine. In the blink of an eye, it was late at night. Who is it? Suddenly, Lu Ming opened his eyes. They shone in all directions, aiming at a dark void. Whoosh! As soon as Lu Ming finished speaking, the void rippled. A pitch-black sword light shot out and pierced between Lu Ming's eyebrows at an astonishing speed. Chapter 41-27. A pitch-black sword light moved towards Lu Ming's third eye. It was extremely fast, and under the cover of the night, it was deadly. You want to die. There was a cold murderous intent in Lu Ming's eyes. He had sensed that the enemy had the strength of the top of the 9th godly emperor layer. A cultivator of the top of the 9th godly emperor layer could easily kill a cultivator of the 7th godly emperor layer. But the enemy had bumped into Lu Ming. Lu Ming's expression was calm. He stretched out 2 fingers and pinched the pitch-black sword gleam accurately. Then, a silhouette appeared. He couldn't believe his eyes. He hadn't thought that Lu Ming would be able to block his attack so easily. It's you. Lu Ming was stupefied. His eyes were filled with murder. Lu Ming had seen the assassin before. It was one of the 8 envoys of the shaman shrine. Hadn't he left already? He hadn't thought he'd come back to kill Lu Ming. "Tell me, why do you want to kill me?" asked Lu Ming icily. "People from the outside world should die." "Die." The emissary of the sorcerer god temple shouted coldly. His body changed rapidly and turned into a pitch-black sword gleam. The sword aura soared to the sky and it was more powerful than before. "That's a secret technique?" Lu Ming was stupefied. He was really stupefied because the enemy had turned into a secret technique. Indeed, the enemy's real body was a secret technique. A secret technique could turn into a living being. Lu Ming had never heard of such a thing. Suddenly, Lu Ming had an idea. The Heavenly Palace had told him that 500 years ago, the secret techniques of the ancient world had already gained sentience. That was why the deity emperors were sent here. Because the great ancient secret technique could sense the presence of great ancient divine emperors. It would be very difficult to find them. Since the ancient secret techniques could give birth to sentience 500 solar years ago, it wasn't impossible for the ancient secret techniques to become sentient beings after 500 solar years. It was even possible for ordinary secret techniques to gain sentience. The reality was right in front of him. The black sword light in front of him was a secret technique. Moreover, it was only an ordinary secret technique. Clang! Just as Lu Ming was in a daze, the black sword gleam had already pierced Lu Ming's glabella. There was a sound of metal colliding and sparks were flying everywhere. However, it did not even break through Lu Ming's skin defense. How is that possible? The enemy's voice came from the black sword light. "I'll give you a way out." Lu Ming came to his senses and grabbed the black sword light with his hand. The forbidden force was activated, and the powerful force caught the black sword light. Then, he squeezed it hard. With a bang, the black sword light exploded. In the next moment, a rune fell on Lu Ming's palm. "This is a secret technique rune." Lu Ming's eyes widened, and he was even more surprised. However, after taking a closer look, Lu Ming found that it was indeed a secret technique rune. The other party's spiritual intelligence had completely disappeared. Lu Ming had obliterated it. Could this secret technique rune directly fuse with his cells? Lu Ming had this thought, but now wasn't the time to test it, because the enemy still had people. "Since you're here, do you think you can leave?" Lu Ming shouted coldly and took a step forward. In the next moment, he rushed into the vast night sky. He reached out his hand and grabbed at the night sky. The night sky exploded. In the next moment, Lu Ming retracted his hand, and in his palm, he had caught a small snake. This small snake wasn't a real life of flesh and blood. It was also a secret technique. The enemy's form seemed to be the form of this secret technique. For example, if a secret technique could condense a small snake with a single strike, then the form of the secret technique would be a small snake. Just like in front of him. "Speak, why do you want to kill me?" Lu Ming asked coldly. "Because you're from the outside world. The outside world and the great ancient world are mortal enemies. Since I saw you, I had no choice but to kill you." The small snake roared and struggled with all its might, wanting to rush out. It seems that the ordinary creatures of the great ancient world have forgotten their grudges, but it seems that they haven't forgotten about these secret technique. Lu Ming thought to himself. Then, he clenched his fist and the small snake exploded, turning into a secret technique rune and falling into Lu Ming's hand. To think that I would get the secret technique rune directly by killing the creatures formed from these secret techniques, Lu Ming couldn't help feeling a fire burning in his heart. If these secret technique runes could be directly fused into his cells, wouldn't that mean that Lu Ming didn't even need to cultivate and could directly control them? If that was really the case, wouldn't he be rich? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. That was when several figures flew out from the depths of the Sheng residence. They were elders of the Sheng family, and all of them had powerful auras as god emperors. One of them was the giant white ape from before. "Brother Mu Yun, it's you." The giant white ape exclaimed softly. "Senior Yuan." Lu Ming nodded. "Patriarch, everyone, let me introduce you. This is Mu Yun." Mu Yun, This is the patriarch of the Sheng family, and the other elders, the giant white ape introduced them. Greetings, Patriarch Sheng, seniors, Lu Ming bowed. Come to think of it, he hadn't met the patriarch since he came to the Sheng family. What happened just now, Brother Mu Yun? The patriarch of the Sheng family asked. A few rascals tried to ambush me, but I've taken care of them, Lu Ming said, but didn't directly say that the envoys of the witch god temple ambushed him. Is that so? The patriarch of the Sheng family and the others appeared puzzled. Why would anyone ambush Lu Ming in the Sheng family? Everyone, it seems that someone is being unfriendly to me. I shouldn't stay here. I'll take my leave. Lu Ming offered a fist palm salute and turned to leave, vanishing into the night sky. He stayed because he didn't want to implicate the Sheng family. He had a good impression of the Sheng family, and didn't want to implicate them because of Sheng Qiao. Soon, Lu Ming left the Sheng residence and disappeared outside West Crow City. It seems that the 8 envoys of the witch god temple didn't leave. I wonder where the other 6 are. Let's see if the secret runes work. With that thought, Lu Ming took out the 2 secret runes he just obtained. With a grasp of his palm, the 2 runes melted into his palm and disappeared. They really fused into my cells. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He realized that the 2 secret runes had fused into 2 different cells. Let's see if it works. Lu Ming waved his hand, and a pitch-black sword light appeared in the sky, slashing out violently and cutting the air in half. Then, a giant serpent darted out, shattering the air. It really works. Lu Ming showed a look of wild delight. Chapter 41-28. Lu Ming tried the 2 secret skill talismans and realized that they were both useful. He could use them freely as if they were his own. Lu Ming was overjoyed. As long as he could kill these creatures, he would be able to obtain more secret skill talismans. Especially ancient secret skills. If he could obtain the ancient secret skill talismans, how much time could he save? How many merit points could he save? Thinking of this, Lu Ming's heart was burning with excitement. Sorcerer God Temple, since you want to kill me, don't blame me for being ruthless. A cold light flashed across Lu Ming's eyes. He then turned into a beam of light and flew towards a direction. This was the direction of the ancient Sorcerer God Temple. It was also the direction where the 8 messengers had left. Since the ancient Sorcerer God Temple had sent 2 messengers to assassinate him, the other 6 messengers should not have gone far. It was highly possible that they were waiting for news somewhere. Lu Ming flew quickly and spread out his spiritual sense to search for the remaining 6 messengers. Lu Ming did not fly far before his spiritual sense sensed that there were 6 messengers sitting cross-legged on a mountain peak in front of him. They were the 6 messengers from the Sorcerer God Temple. Swoosh! When Lu Ming's spiritual sense sensed them, the old messenger opened his eyes abruptly. His gaze was as sharp as a sword as he looked at Lu Ming. This brat is not dead yet. How dare he take the initiative to attack us? His courting death. The old messenger's cold voice sounded, startling the other 5 messengers. Lord Divine Magus, what's going on? The other 5 messengers were still confused. That brat from the outside world is here. Get ready to fight. The old messenger of the Sorcerer God Temple said coldly. As soon as he finished his words, he soared to the sky and dashed in Lu Ming's direction. The other 5 messengers were shocked. Without hesitation, they followed the old messenger and rushed towards Lu Ming. In a few breaths' time, the 2 parties met. 6 pairs of sharp eyes landed on Lu Ming. There was a hint of curiosity and murderous intent in their eyes. Brat, where are the 2 messengers from the Sorcerer God Temple? The emissary of the Sorcerer Palace shouted. Since you want to kill me, you naturally have to pay the price, Lu Ming said coldly. In other words, the 2 of them had already paid the price. Brat, you're courting death. The old messenger of the Sorcerer God Palace was filled with killing intent. You're the ones courting death. I didn't provoke you, but you came to provoke me, Lu Ming shouted coldly and used the Greater God Wind technique. His body was like a phantom as he rushed towards the 6 messengers of the Sorcerer God Temple. Kill! Kill! The 6 envoys of the Sorcerer God Temple also attacked. Their bodies transformed into 6 different secret techniques and attacked Lu Ming. 5 cultivators of the top of the 9th godly emperor layer, 1 cultivator of the 1st great supreme god layer. The moment the other party attacked, Lu Ming was able to determine the other party's cultivation. The old envoy was the strongest, he had the strength of the 1st great supreme god layer. The other 5 cultivators had the strength of the top of the 9th godly emperor layer. Boom, boom, boom. Lu Ming threw out punches continuously. More than 10 fist forces penetrated the void. The scene was extremely terrifying. The 6 envoys of the sorcerer god temple pulled a long face. "Oh no, it's dangerous. Dodge," shouted the 5 envoys of the 9th godly emperor layer. They didn't dare fight against Lin Feng, they wanted to dodge. However, with their cultivation levels, how could they dodge Lu Ming's attacks? The 5 messengers of the sorcerer divine temple, who were at the peak of the 9th level divine emperor realm, were killed by Lu Ming and turned into 5 secret skill runes. Only the old envoy of the sorcerer god temple managed to block Lu Ming's attack, but he was also shaking. Your fighting strength." At that moment, the old envoy of the sorcerer god temple wasn't angry because the other 5 envoys had been killed. He was just astonished. He was astonished because of Lu Ming's fighting strength. He would have never thought that Lu Ming, a cultivator of the 7th godly emperor layer, could be so strong. His attacks could rival the old envoy of the sorcerer god temple, or even surpass him. That was terrifying. "Die!" Lu Ming shouted coldly. His body did not stop moving. The cells in his body were vibrating, emitting dazzling rays of light. Lu Ming activated his combat ability to the maximum and charged toward the elderly man from the sorcerer divine temple. "You want to kill me? Impossible!" The old man from the sorcerer god temple roared. His actual body was a pitch-black divine pagoda. There were 9 light ribbons hanging down from it, suppressing Lu Ming. Its power was shocking. That was his real body. It was also a secret technique. Is that one of the 3,000 ancient secret techniques, the Great God Tower technique? Lu Ming's heart stirred. Since he had the ambition to collect the various 3,000 ancient secret skills, he naturally had a detailed understanding of the 3,000 ancient secret skills. He knew that one of the 3,000 ancient secret skills was called the Great God Pagoda skill. When he used it, he could condense a tower to oppress his enemies. It was extremely powerful. However, the Great God Tower technique was just an ordinary one among the 3,000 ancient secret techniques. It was the same as the Great Breaking technique. In the Merit Exchange Hall, it cost around 100,000 points. Lu Ming's eyes were twinkling. If it was really the Great God Tower technique, he would definitely get the talisman of that secret technique. Great Binding technique. Lu Ming's entire body was shrouded in a dazzling glow. He pressed his palms forward and cast the Great Binding skill. An invisible force emerged and entangled the divine pagoda like a python. In that instant, the divine pagoda froze. What welcomed it was Lu Ming's storm-like attacks. Boom, boom, boom. Lu Ming increased his combat power to the maximum and bombarded the divine pagoda with both hands. In an instant, he attacked at least 100 times. The tower shook violently and was sent flying thousands of miles away. It crashed into a dozen mountains and the 9 light belts on it became dim. The opponent was severely injured. How did you master so many ancient witchcraft? A shocked voice came from the tower. Ancient witchcraft? It's one of the 3,000 ancient secret techniques. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Lu Ming had used at least 3 kinds of ancient mystic skills when he attacked just now. Obviously, the other party was very shocked. Soon, you will become one of my ancient witchcraft, Lu Ming said coldly and continued to attack the opponent. He realized that the opponent was slightly stronger than the giant white ape of the Sheng family. However, it was still not a match for Lu Ming. Even if he did not use any other powerful weapons, Lu Ming could still suppress the opponent. You monster! The ancient witch temple will not let you go. Before you came, I had already sent the news back to the witch temple. A loud roar came from the tower. Then, it turned around and fled at an astonishing speed. It knew that it was no match for Lu Ming and wanted to escape back to the witch temple. There were many experts in the witch temple and some of them could kill Lu Ming. However, how could Lu Ming let it escape? Chapter 41-29. Great Shift Art. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat as he used the Great Shift Art. His body suddenly disappeared from the spot and appeared in front of the divine pagoda in the next moment, staring at it coldly. This is the top ancient witchcraft art, the Great Shift Art. How do you know it too? A shocked voice came from the divine pagoda. Other than the overall name being different, the specific name is the same. A thought flashed across Lu Ming's mind, but his body did not stop as he continued to attack the divine pagoda. Boom boom boom. Continuous explosions rang out as the divine pagoda shook violently. Then, cracks appeared on it. The divine pagoda was still no match for Lu Ming. Not long after, the divine pagoda exploded and turned into a secret skill rune. However, this secret technique talisman still had its own consciousness, and was still trying to escape. Clearly, its consciousness had not been completely destroyed. Swoosh! Lu Ming stretched out his big hand and grabbed it. The taboo power condensed into a big hand and grabbed the secret skill rune in his hand. Then, the taboo power seeped into it, wanting to obliterate the other party's spiritual intelligence. You'll die a horrible death. The ancient witchcraft shrine will not let you go, the divine pagoda roared and cursed angrily. Tell me, how many experts are there in the ancient witchcraft shrine? How many of them are like you, transformed by ancient witchcraft? Lu Ming asked. So what if I tell you? The ancient witchcraft shrine has 800 experts transformed by ancient witchcraft. I'm the weakest among them. The others are all stronger than me. You'd better let me go, or you won't be able to escape death. A loud roar came from the divine pagoda. When the divine pagoda heard Lu Ming's question, he thought that Lu Ming was afraid. Naturally, he would not hide it and mentioned how many experts there were in the ancient witchcraft shrine, hoping to intimidate Lu Ming. Unfortunately, Lu Ming only wanted to ask and had no intention of letting the divine pagoda go. Boom! Lu Ming's taboo power completely destroyed the divine pagoda's spirituality, leaving behind a simple secret skill rune 800 living beings transformed by ancient witchcraft. From what I heard, they should have reached the God Emperor realm. This is a terrifying force. It seems like I have to think about the witchcraft shrine, Lu Ming thought. 800 Emperor gods. This was definitely a terrifying force. Moreover, the strongest among them had a very high cultivation level. Although Lu Ming had powerful weapons such as the Gale Bead and the mysterious Ice Rod, it was impossible for him to contend with powerful Emperor gods. It was obviously impossible to charge into the ancient sorcerer shrine directly. That would be courting death. Moreover, the other party had already received the news. It would not be long before they would send a large number of experts to hunt him down. He needed to think carefully about what to do next. In the end, Lu Ming decided to stay in the vicinity of West Raven City and observe. He wanted to see if the experts sent by the ancient witchcraft shrine were strong. If they were too strong, he would not make a move. If they were not too strong, he would make a move and kill them. After making up his mind, Lu Ming flew toward West Raven City. Soon, West Raven City appeared in front of Lu Ming. Lu Ming did not plan to enter West Raven City. Instead, he found a secluded place to hide. Let's see if the ancient secret skill rune can be directly fused into my cells, Lu Ming thought, and a secret skill rune appeared in his hand. It was the secret skill rune of the Great God Pagoda technique. Lu Ming could not wait to try it out. He wanted to see if the ancient mystic skill runes could be integrated directly into his cells and be used by him. Without hesitation, Lu Ming directly fused the secret skill rune into a cell. Success! Lu Ming was overjoyed. The secret skill rune had successfully fused into his cell. Lu Ming could feel that as long as he thought about it, he would be able to operate it. But the next moment, Lu Ming frowned again. He realized that the level of mastery of the Great God Pagoda technique was not right. Previously, when he fused the secret skill runes of the ordinary secret skills into his cells, he directly reached the greater mastery stage. But now, Lu Ming could only unleash the power of the Great God Pagoda technique at the entry level. What's going on? Is it because the ancient secret skill is harder to cultivate, or is it because the cultivation of the creatures created by the Great God Pagoda technique is not high enough? Lu Ming frowned and guessed. But he could not figure it out at the moment. He could only experiment after obtaining more secret skill runes. Hey! This is... Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes widened. He had made a new discovery. The secret skill rune formed by the Great God Pagoda technique merged with his cells. All of a sudden, an extremely pure force permeated the air and instantly surged into all his cells. Lu Ming discovered that his taboo force had actually strengthened by a notch. It can also increase my cultivation. Lu Ming was a little surprised at first, then he was overjoyed. He realized that his cultivation level had increased. The distance between him and the 8th godly emperor layer was shortened. The ordinary secret skill runes did not have such benefits. Could it be that only the ancient secret skill runes had such benefits? Lu Ming could not help but feel even more excited. Just like that, Lu Ming waited there. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes flashed and he quickly withdrew his qi. Because a dozen figures had suddenly appeared in the void in front of him. Those silhouettes were standing in the void. They were wearing robes of different colors and emitted powerful qi. Their qi was very similar to that of the old man from the sorcerer shrine, who was the creature created by the Great God Pagoda technique. They were all great supreme gods. There was a burning glow in Lu Ming's eyes. These 10 over-godtheches were most likely evolved from the primordial secret skills. In Lu Ming's eyes, there were more than 10 primordial secret skills. As long as he could kill all of them, he would be able to master more than 10 primordial secret skills. However, Lu Ming was just thinking about it. He did not attack. Because he did not know the exact cultivation level of those great supreme gods. If they only had the strength of the second great supreme god layer, Lu Ming would be confident. With the first grade celestial armor, the Zephyr Pearl, and the mysterious ice rod, Lu Ming was not afraid of them. But if they had the strength of the third great supreme god layer, it would be hard to say. Lu Ming did not know how big the gap was between each level of the great supreme god layer. The strongest person he had faced so far was only at the first great supreme god layer. He did not know how strong a second great supreme god layer was. But the gap between each level of the Great Supreme God layer was definitely much greater than the Divine Emperor layer. Lu Ming estimated that even if he had the mysterious ice rod, he would not be able to defeat a third Great Supreme God layer expert. And the first grade celestial armor could only block a third Great Supreme God layer attack. Then what? He could only run for his life. Therefore, before he could figure out their cultivation level, Lu Ming did not plan to attack. Those great supreme gods of the sorcerer shrine carefully looked around. Then, their figures flashed and they rushed into the West Raven city. Lu Ming guessed that they had gone to the Shun clan to inquire about him. Chapter 4130. Lu Ming waited patiently for a while. Not long after, the envoys of the Witch God Temple left West Crow City and disappeared into the sky. After that, Lu Ming sneaked into West Crow City. He mainly wanted to see if the Shun family was all right. After all, he didn't want to implicate the Shun family. Fortunately, after entering West Crow City, he found that the Shun family was fine. Lu Ming felt relieved and left West Crow City again. However, not long after Lu Ming left West Crow City, an unforeseen event occurred. Swish! The void split open and a snow-white blade light slashed towards Lu Ming's head. It was extremely powerful. At the crucial moment, Lu Ming burst out with his full strength. His body emitted a dazzling light as he punched out. Boom! There was a violent explosion. That snow-white blade light was blocked by Lu Ming. At the same time, 2 terrifying attacks came from Lu Ming's left and right. They attacked Lu Ming. Not only that, after the attacks from the left and right sides were launched, an attack also erupted from the back, crushing toward Lu Ming. Danger! Extreme danger! The attacks from the left and right were still fine. Lu Ming could still deal with them. He judged that the attacks from the left and right should be from someone in the first layer of the Great God Realm. However, the attack from behind was too powerful. It was extremely terrifying. It was much stronger than the attack from someone in the first layer of the Great God Realm. Second layer of the Great God Realm, Lu Ming judged that the attack from behind should be from someone in the second layer of the Great God Realm. Lu Ming knew that with his own strength, he was definitely not a match for someone in the second layer of the Great God Realm. He couldn't block it. However, Lu Ming had many treasures on him. With a thought, the first-grade celestial armor on his body was activated. The first-grade celestial armor emitted a layer of light, enveloping Lu Ming. Boom, boom, boom. The attacks from the left, right, and back all landed on the first-grade celestial armor's light shield. With 3 consecutive explosions, the 3 attacks were blocked. They didn't break through the armor. However, the attack from behind was too powerful. Although it was blocked, there was still a terrifying force pushing Lu Ming forward. Lu Ming's body crashed into a middle-aged man in front of him. The middle-aged man spat out a mouthful of blood and was pushed back. Lu Ming flew out for a distance of hundreds of miles before he could stabilize himself. Swish, 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 there were more than 10 figures around him, surrounding Lu Ming in the middle. These figures were none other than the Sorcerer God's Temple's people who had appeared in West Crow City earlier. Brat, let's see where you can run to now. Swish, swish. Brat, tell me, where are your accomplices? Do you have any accomplices who came in with you? Teacher, tell me. Another voice sounded. It came from an old man with pitch-black skin and demonic chi all over his body. What a familiar aura. Lu Ming felt that the old man's aura was familiar. It was the same old man who had attacked him from behind. He was a second-layer Emperor God Realm cultivator. More importantly, the old man's aura reminded him of the Great Demonic Sword Technique. Could it be that this old man was the Great Demonic Sword Technique? How did you find me? Lu Ming didn't answer the old man's question. Instead, he asked another question. It's easy to find you. You have the aura of the outside world. As long as we can capture a trace of your aura, we can refine a tracking treasure. Finding you is easy. The dark-skinned old man who seemed to be the Great Demonic Sword Technique said coldly. Could it be those secret techniques? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He recalled that there were some secret techniques among the 3,000 ancient secret techniques that were very good at tracking and capturing. Perhaps those secret techniques were the reason why they could find Lu Ming. Swish. I'll give you one more chance. Speak. Where is your partner? Also, how did you get in? Where is the entrance? If you tell me everything, I can leave you with a complete corpse. The dark-skinned old man was the Great Demonic Sword Technique. If you want to know, you'll have to defeat me first, said Lu Ming. Then, the Zephyr bead appeared in his hand. After observing for a moment, Lu Ming realized that there were no stronger cultivators among those people. None of them had the strength of the third Great Supreme God Layer. The strongest one had the strength of the second Great Supreme God Layer. None of them had the strength of the third Great Supreme God Layer. Lu Ming was relieved. He wanted to try and see if he could kill all of them. Little boy, since you want to die, I'll help you. Attack and kill him. Leave his soul behind. Then, we'll find a way to know his secret. The Great Demonic Sword Technique waved his hand. Boom, boom, boom. More than a dozen people, no, more than a dozen ancient secret techniques, attacked at the same time. They transformed into different secret techniques and attacked Lu Ming. As expected, they're all ancient secret techniques. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He activated the Celestial Soldier Armor's defense and blocked all the attacks. Then, the Zephyr wind inside the Zephyr bead whistled and turned into a wind blade. Ah! A horrible shriek spread in the air. One of the ancient secret techniques exploded and turned into a talisman. A first Great Supreme God Layer ancient secret technique was instantly killed by Lu Ming. Of course, he was instantly killed by the energy inside the Zephyr bead. A part of it is missing. Lu Ming was startled. He had consumed a lot of energy from the Zephyr bead. The Zephyr wind inside the Zephyr bead was being consumed at a speed visible to the naked eye. After all, the Zephyr wind inside the Zephyr bead was limited and could not be replenished. Especially with Lu Ming's current cultivation level, each time he used it, it consumed a lot of energy. If it continued like this, it would not last long. However, a great weapon was meant to be used. If it was not used at a critical moment, how could it be called a great weapon? Die! Shouted Lu Ming. He used the Great Divine Wind technique to the maximum and used all his strength to draw the energy from the Zephyr bead. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the Zephyr wind turned into a tornado. It whistled and swept towards the dozen ancient secret techniques. Although the tornado was not as powerful as the wind blade, it covered a large area. It could envelop all the ancient secret techniques. Those cultivators of the first great supreme god layer couldn't resist it. They were constantly attacked by the tornado and were severely injured. Even though the ancient secret techniques were not made of flesh and blood, they still contained life essence. At that moment, after being injured, their life essence was rapidly shrinking. Their chi was quickly weakening and their strength was rapidly decreasing. Among the dozen ancient secret techniques, there were only two that were relatively strong. One was the Great Demonic Sword technique. He turned into a pitch-black demonic sword and slashed across the sky. Sword lights kept colliding with the tornado. At that moment, the tornado was blocked. As for the other person, it was hard to tell what kind of ancient secret technique he was using. He turned into a beam of light and his power was terrifying. He could easily cut open the sky and block the tornado. Both of them had the strength of the second great supreme god layer. Chapter 41-31. Only two of them had the strength of the second great supreme god layer, while the others had the strength of the first great supreme god layer. First great supreme god layer cultivators couldn't block the strong winds. As the power of a tornado weakened, Lu Ming pulled out another one. He did not feel the pinch at all. Even though he couldn't kill the cultivators of the first great supreme god layer instantly, he could make their injuries worse. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, Lu Ming continuously drew out 7 strong gusts of wind. Those first level 1 Emperor God primordial secret skills were severely injured. Their auras were extremely weak. Die! Lu Ming shouted coldly. Every cell in his body was trembling. He activated his combat ability to the extreme. His body dashed out like a meteor. Boom! An ancient secret skill was blasted apart by Lu Ming, turning into a secret skill rune. Lu Ming grabbed it in his hand and put it into his storage ring. He had already obtained 2 ancient secret technique runes in a row. Lu Ming didn't stop. After killing one, he moved on to the next one. Those first-level Emperor God primordial secret skills were extremely weak after being severely injured. They could not withstand Lu Ming's attack at all. Lu Ming dashed forward and destroyed another ancient secret technique. It turned into a talisman and was put away by Lu Ming. Fast, too fast. Within a breath's time, Lu Ming destroyed 6 types of primordial mystic skills. At that moment, the remaining ancient secret techniques were panicking. Let's go. This little boy has a terrifying weapon. We have to send the news back. Retreat! Shouted the 2 cultivators of the second great supreme god layer. They ordered the others to retreat. However, how could Lu Ming let them retreat? Lu Ming used all his strength to summon the energy in the Zephyr Pearl and create a barrier around him to prevent the ancient secret techniques from retreating. Boom boom boom! The 2 cultivators of the second great supreme god layer were really strong. They were much stronger than the cultivators of the first great supreme god layer. They weren't injured at all. When their attacks landed on the barrier, it shook violently and a crack appeared. However, the cultivators of the first great supreme god layer weren't that strong. They couldn't break the barrier at all. Lu Ming didn't stop attacking. Each time he flickered, a cultivator of the first great supreme god layer would be destroyed and turn into a talisman, which fell into Lu Ming's hand. After a while, the remaining cultivators of the first great supreme god layer were all killed by Lu Ming. At that moment, the 2 cultivators of the second great supreme god layer had already broken the barrier and were flying away. You want to leave? Lu Ming's gaze was cold and there was a strange fluctuation in his body. The next moment, his figure disappeared from the spot. It was the transference skill. In the next moment, he appeared in front of the great demonic sword art. The Zephyr Pearl whistled and turned into a wind blade, attacking the great demon sword technique. Demonic sword rampage, break for me, shouted the great demon sword technique. His sword became 10,000 jong long and slashed at the wind blade. Boom! When the two attacks collided, an earth-shattering boom erupted, and a terrifying shockwave was stirred up. Then, the gale wind blade collapsed. However, the demon sword was also shaken violently and was blown away. A hideous wound appeared on the sword. It had been cut by the Zephyr wind blade. Lu Ming still had the upper hand in the collision between the two. The cultivator of the second great supreme god layer is really strong. I can't compete with him. I'll be killed instantly, a thought flashed across Lu Ming's mind. He could defeat an ordinary cultivator of the first great supreme god layer, but the difference between the first great supreme god layer and the second great supreme god layer was too big. The difference between the two layers of the godly emperor layer was huge. A cultivator of a higher layer could easily kill a cultivator of a lower layer. However, the difference between the two layers of the great supreme god layer was even bigger. Originally, Lu Ming's Zephyr Pearl was much stronger than his own battle strength. However, in the great supreme god layer, he couldn't fight across too much distance. He had only been able to suppress the great demon sword technique with his full strength. You can't kill me, shouted the great demon sword technique. He turned into a sword light and changed direction, flying away quickly. However, Lu Ming immediately used the Zephyr wind blade to form a barrier, blocking the great demon sword technique. Don't try to stop me. Break! Shouted the great demon sword technique. Sword light soared to the sky and slashed the Zephyr wind blade. A crack appeared on the Zephyr wind blade. However, at this moment, Lu Ming had already taken out a snow-white long rod. The Bingxian staff. The Bingxian staff consumed too much energy, so Lu Ming had been using the Zephyr Pearl instead of the Bingxian staff. However, it seemed like he couldn't stop his opponent without using the Bingxian staff. As soon as the Bingxian staff appeared, it expanded rapidly like a mountain and pressed down on the great demon sword technique. The Bingxian staff was one of the 18 divine weapons of the Heavenly Court. It was a top-tier divine weapon in the universe. Under Lu Ming's taboo power, its power was shocking. It was definitely above the Zephyr Pearl. The great demon sword technique was shocked and showed fear for the first time. Not good, he still has a trump card, roared the great demon sword technique. Then, he pushed his strength to the limit and even burned his life source. He was going all out. Swoosh. A shocking demonic sword soared to the sky and slashed at Lu Ming, colliding with the Bingxian staff. Wang, clang. A violent vibration sounded from the pitch-black demonic sword. The huge demonic sword vibrated violently. Then, fine cracks appeared on it. At the same time, the sword body was pushed back crazily. How is this possible? Said the great demon sword technique in disbelief. In that move, he felt that Lu Ming's strength had surpassed his by a large margin. Nothing is impossible. Today, you will die, Lu Ming said coldly. The Bingxian staff slammed down again. The sky was collapsing as a violent destructive force swept out. The great demon sword technique had no way to escape. He could only face it head-on. With a boom, more cracks appeared on the great demon sword technique's sword body. In the end, it exploded with a bang. The great demon sword technique was severely injured. Only a secret rune was left floating in the air. It wanted to escape. However, Lu Ming grabbed the secret skill runes of the great demonic swordsmanship in his hands. No, you can't kill me. If you kill me, the ancient sorcerer shrine will not let you go, roared the great demon sword technique. You're saying that the ancient sorcerer shrine will let you go if I don't kill you? Lu Ming smiled faintly. He had killed so many people. The ancient sorcerer shrine would definitely not let him go. There was no difference if he killed one less or one more. With a thought, he stored the runes of the great devil sword art into his storage ring. Then, his silhouette flickered and he disappeared from his original position. He chased after the other cultivator of the second great supreme god layer. However, after chasing him for a while, he didn't find any trace of him. Chapter 41-32. Lu Ming used the great teleportation technique several times, but he couldn't find the other cultivator of the second great supreme god layer. Lu Ming knew that the other cultivator had already run far away. His fighting strength was limited, so it took him a long time to kill the cultivator of the second great supreme god layer. That time was enough for the cultivator of the second great supreme god layer to run far away. Besides, the other cultivator of the second great supreme god layer was like a beam of light. His speed was astonishing. Even if Lu Ming used the great teleportation technique with all his strength, he couldn't catch up with him. After all, his cultivation level was much higher than his. That was why Lu Ming had attacked the first cultivator of the great demon sword technique and not the other one. If he had attacked the other one at the beginning, the two cultivators of the second great supreme god layer wouldn't have been able to escape. If one of them escapes, the ancient sorcerer shrine will definitely take revenge. From what they've said, there must be even stronger cultivators in the ancient sorcerer shrine. I have to become stronger, Lu Ming frowned while thinking. Through the exchange earlier, he finally knew how great the gap between each level of the God Emperor realm was. Even though he could kill a cultivator of the second great supreme god layer with the mysterious ice rod, he couldn't defeat a cultivator of the third great supreme god layer. Then, the ancient sorcerer shrine would probably send cultivators of the third great supreme god layer to kill him. He had to become stronger as soon as possible. I have more than 10 talismans from the ancient sorcerer shrine. I wonder if they can help me break through to the next level, thought Lu Ming. Then, his silhouette flickered and he left. After a short time, he found a secret place and punched a hole in the ground. He went deep into the ground and sat down cross-legged. After that, a talisman appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Little boy, you're courting death. You better let me go or the ancient sorcerer shrine won't let you off. As soon as he took out the talisman, a threatening voice emerged from it. Although Lu Ming had scattered the forms of more than 10 ancient mystic skills, their spiritual intelligence was still present and they had not been obliterated. You talk a lot of crap, Lu Ming said coldly. He held the secret technique rune in his hand. Forbidden power poured into it and began to erase the intelligence inside. No, I beg you, spare me. Spare my life. I have experienced countless years before I was able to gain sentience. I have gone through untold hardships to cultivate my body. I beg you to spare me. Seeing that his threat had failed, the other party began to beg for mercy. However, Lu Ming couldn't be bothered with him at all. He was controlling the forbidden power with all his might to obliterate his opponent's consciousness. The other party's cries became softer and softer, and soon, there was no movement at all. The other party's intelligence had been completely wiped out by him. Let's test the effect. Lu Ming held the secret technique rune. With a thought, the secret technique rune merged with one of Lu Ming's cells. Immediately, Lu Ming had a feeling that this ancient secret technique had already been grasped by him. There was one more ancient mystic skill that Lu Ming had mastered. However, Lu Ming tested it out and found that his mastery of this ancient secret technique was only at the beginner level. It was the same as the Great Divine Pagoda technique. However, a gush of pure energy emanated from that cell and surged into his entire body. Lu Ming's cultivation level increased rapidly. Very soon, it increased by a notch. Sure enough, the secret technique rune of the ancient secret technique can increase my cultivation base. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Then, Lu Ming took out another secret technique rune. Ignoring the other party's cries and roars, he used the same trick again to obliterate his opponent's intelligence and merge it with his cells. Immediately, another power surged out, increasing Lu Ming's cultivation base a little. In this way, Lu Ming continued to obliterate the secret technique rune's intelligence and merge it with his cells. Finally, it was the Great Devil Sword technique's turn. However, Lu Ming held the secret technique rune of the Great Devil Sword art in a daze. Because he already had the Great Devil Sword art and had cultivated it to the great success level. Could he still merge this secret technique rune? Lu Ming wasn't sure. However, how could he be satisfied if he didn't try? Lu Ming put the secret technique rune of the Great Devil Sword art into a cell. However, there seemed to be a strong repulsive force in that cell that repelled the secret technique rune. Sure enough, it couldn't merge. It seemed that his body could only allow one secret technique to merge with his cells. It was impossible to fuse the same secret technique into different cells. Wouldn't it be a waste? Lu Ming frowned. This secret technique rune was left behind by a second-layer Great God Realm expert. It would be of great help to him. He was unwilling to waste it. I wonder if I can merge it into the same cell? Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes lit up as an idea popped into his head. If he couldn't merge it into different cells, he could at least merge it into the same cell. Thinking about that, Lu Ming moved the secret technique rune towards the cell that had already merged with the Great Devil Sword art. To Lu Ming's surprise, it went very smoothly this time. The secret technique rune of the Great Devil Sword art merged with the cell and disappeared. Then, an incomparably pure energy gushed out. Lu Ming's cultivation started to increase rapidly. After a short time, it stopped. Top of the 7th Godly Emperor layer, unfortunately, I'm still a bit away from breaking through. Lu Ming frowned. His cultivation had stopped at the top of the 7th Godly Emperor layer. He couldn't break through to the 8th Godly Emperor layer. If I had a few more secret technique runes, I might have been able to break through, thought Lu Ming. Then, he sensed the Great Devil Sword art and found that it hadn't changed. When he used it, it didn't become stronger either. It seemed that merging with the secret technique rune of the Great Devil Sword art didn't give him any other benefits. It's been a while. I'm sure the ancient sorcerer shrine has already started taking action. I should leave first. If I stay in one place, they'll find me easily. Immediately, Lu Ming left the place and flew toward the north. He had done his research before and knew that the ancient sorcerer shrine was in the south of the great ancient world. The great sorcerer shrine was in the north of the great ancient world. Since the ancient sorcerer shrine was chasing him, he decided to go to the great sorcerer shrine. Even though he wasn't sure whether the great sorcerer shrine would chase him or not, it was better than staying there. Very quickly, a day passed. Unfortunately, before he could leave the territory of the ancient sorcerer shrine, the strong cultivators of the ancient sorcerer shrine found him. Lu Ming was flying when the void collapsed all of a sudden. A few attacks blasted toward Lu Ming from all directions. They were so powerful that it made one's countenance change. There were 3 attacks, all from cultivators of the 2nd Godly Emperor layer. In an instant, Lu Ming judged the ability of the person who attacked him. Chapter 41-33. 3 cultivators of the 2nd Great Supreme God layer were attacking him at the same time. He couldn't stop them on his own. However, Lu Ming had been on high alert during this period of time. He was prepared to be sneak attacked at any moment. Therefore, the moment the other party attacked, he activated the 1st-level Heavenly Soldier armor to defend himself. 3 explosions spread in the air. The 3 cultivators of the 2nd Great Supreme God layer were all blocked. However, the terrifying strength still sent Lu Ming flying. He crashed on the ground, creating a crater. But as soon as Lu Ming crashed on the ground, he rose up in the air. At the same time, the Zephyr Pearl appeared in his hand. A tornado appeared and moved towards the 3 cultivators of the 2nd Great Supreme God layer. The 3 cultivators of the 2nd Great Supreme God layer attacked and blocked the tornado. That little boy is here. Kill him. Don't let him escape. At that moment, many people were shouting furiously. The sky was collapsing. Silhouettes kept appearing around them. So many people. Lu Ming's facial expression changed drastically. Lu Ming swept his gaze across and saw dozens of figures. There were no less than 50 of them. Some of them had strong qi, some were weak. But the weakest one had the strength of the 1st Great Supreme God layer. The strongest one had the strength of the 2nd Great Supreme God layer. There were too many cultivators of the 2nd Great Supreme God layer. Lu Ming sensed at least 10 cultivators of the 2nd Great Supreme God layer. 10 cultivators of the 2nd Great Supreme God layer gathered together. Their fighting strength was terrifying. Even though Lu Ming had the 1st-class celestial battle armor, he couldn't block them for a long time. Those people attacked as soon as they saw Lu Ming. Shoosh, 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 more than 50 attacks moved towards Lu Ming at the same time. It was a terrifying scene. Lu Ming didn't dare block those attacks. Even if they weren't as strong as the attacks of a cultivator of the third great supreme god layer, they weren't much weaker. After a few attacks, the first-class celestial battle armor wouldn't be able to withstand them. Great teleportation technique. With a thought, Lu Ming cast the transference skill. His body disappeared from the spot. When he reappeared, he had already avoided these attacks and was thousands of miles away. Then, he quickly flew in a direction. It's the great teleportation technique. Chase. Quickly report this to the protector, shouted furiously. A dozen cultivators of the second great supreme god layer turned into beams of light and chased after Lu Ming. Behind them, the cultivators of the first great supreme god layer also chased after Lu Ming. Cultivators of the second great supreme god layer were extremely fast. Even though Lu Ming used the great teleportation technique, he couldn't get rid of them. With the greater teleportation technique, the higher one's cultivation, the further one could teleport. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, he could not teleport too far in one go. In the blink of an eye, the two parties had traversed a long distance. Danger! Suddenly, Lu Ming felt a fatal crisis. Above his head, there was a destructive force surging towards him. It was incomparably terrifying. Lu Ming wanted to cast the transference skill to evade it, but he was shocked to discover that the transference skill actually failed. The main reason was that the force was too terrifying. The space in all directions seemed to have solidified. It was affected by the destructive force. Lu Ming could only use the celestial soldier's armor to block it. Boom! In the next instant, the destructive force bombarded the celestial soldier's armor and an earth-shattering explosion sounded. Lu Ming's body was smashed into the ground again, creating a huge crater that was a few thousand li deep. Lu Ming felt numb all over and coughed up blood. Read ebooks. At the same time, he realized that the celestial soldier's armor was dimming. It was like a candle that could be extinguished at any moment. Third great supreme god layer. A thought emerged in Lu Ming's mind. That attack a moment ago had been too terrifying. It had far surpassed the strength of a cultivator of the second great supreme god layer. Even the celestial soldier's armor had become dim after blocking that attack. It was definitely a cultivator of the third great supreme god layer. Cultivators of the second great supreme god layer didn't have such high attacking power. The celestial soldier's armor couldn't block a single attack from a cultivator of the fourth great supreme god layer or higher. If it had been a cultivator of the fourth great supreme god layer or higher, he would have died already. Lu Ming didn't even think about it and used the greater teleportation technique again. This time, he succeeded. Lu Ming disappeared and reappeared in another place. You want to leave? I'm here. You can't leave, said a cold voice. Two beams of sword light shot towards Lu Ming. Then, a tall and sturdy silhouette rushed towards Lu Ming at an astonishing speed. At that moment, Lu Ming finally saw the other person's face clearly. It was a tall and sturdy man with a thick beard. That tall and sturdy man must have used some kind of ancient secret technique. His chi was overbearing and filled with destructive energy. He was extremely fast and kept getting closer to Lu Ming. I can't fight against a cultivator of the third great supreme god layer. The celestial soldier's armor can block one attack, but it won't be able to block a second one. If I fight him head-on, I'll die. I have to run. Lu Ming didn't hesitate. He used the greater teleportation technique again and disappeared from where he was standing. He had realized how strong a cultivator of the third great supreme god layer was. Even if he used his full strength to activate the mysterious ice rod, he still couldn't defeat him. However, a cultivator of the third great supreme god layer was too strong. He had locked onto Lu Ming. Even if Lu Ming used the greater teleportation technique, he couldn't escape. The distance between the two sides was getting shorter and shorter. I can't go on like this. I have to fight. There was a glint in Lu Ming's eyes. With a move, he changed his direction and flew toward the large group of Godthich realm experts. Stop him. Buy time for the protectors. Once the protectors arrive, he'll definitely die. Die. The first ones to meet Lu Ming were a dozen cultivators of the second great supreme god layer. They all roared furiously and attacked Lu Ming. The dozen or so attacks were like an avalanche. It was extremely terrifying. Zephyr Wind Barrier. Lu Ming first released the Zephyr Wind Bead's strength and turned it into a Zephyr Wind Barrier. Then, he took out the mysterious ice staff, activated it with all his strength, and struck out. The dozen cultivators of the second great supreme god layer attacked the Zephyr Wind Barrier. The Zephyr Wind Barrier couldn't withstand the attacks of a dozen cultivators of the second great supreme god layer and it immediately broke apart. However, he still managed to use some of the Zephyr Wind Barrier's strength. Then, he used the mysterious ice rod to break apart some of the attacks. Lu Ming's silhouette flickered and he moved towards one of the cultivators of the second great supreme god layer. When that cultivator of the second great supreme god layer saw Lu Ming approaching him, his face changed drastically and he instinctively retreated. However, Lu Ming's target wasn't him. Lu Ming flashed and arrived in front of the cultivators of the first great supreme god layer. Die. The mysterious ice rod was incomparably huge, and when it struck out, it transformed into 9 rod shadows. Chapter 41-34. Lu Ming used the ancient secret skill to kill 9 first-level Emperor God cultivators in one move. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the 9 secret skill runes in his hand. There was no time to think too much about it. As soon as the 9 secret skill runes were in his hand, Lu Ming frantically injected forbidden power into them to obliterate the intelligence within the secret skill runes. At the same time, the mysterious ice staff did not stop and continued to attack. Swish, swish, swish. The stick's shadow was terrifying. It could destroy the starry sky. Ordinary cultivators of the first great supreme god layer couldn't resist it. They kept exploding under the pressure of the stick's shadow. Their bodies turned into talismans and symbols of secret techniques. Lu Ming grabbed all of these secret technique runes in his hand and constantly used his forbidden power to erase the intelligence within. "Brat, you're courting death," shouted the cultivator of the third great supreme god layer furiously. He dashed towards Lu Ming. However, when the other party approached, Lu Ming used the greater teleportation technique. His figure flashed and appeared in another place. The cultivator of the third great supreme god layer continued chasing Lu Ming, but Lu Ming flashed again and went back to the group of cultivators of the first great supreme god layer. Not good. Dodge. Run. Those cultivators of the first great supreme god layer were scared out of their wits and started running away. They were all transformed from ancient secret techniques. They had experienced countless years and countless trials and tribulations before they were able to gain sentience and take human form. They didn't want to die. In reality, they were thinking too much. Lu Ming had no intention of killing them at all. He already had 15 secret technique talismans in his hand, and he was trying his best to erase the intelligence inside. If he wanted to add more, he wouldn't be able to do it all at once. He kept using the great teleportation technique to dodge the cultivator of the third great supreme god layer. At the same time, he was destroying the spirit inside the talisman. Finally, after dodging several times, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He had succeeded. The first 9 secret technique runes that he had obtained had already lost their intelligence. As soon as the intelligence within the secret art runes was wiped out, Lu Ming immediately fused the 9 secret art runes into his 9 cells. Afterwards, powerful and pure energy immediately surged out from the 9 cells, pouring into every single cell and constantly transforming into forbidden energy. Boom! Lu Ming's body was shaking violently. He wanted to break through to the 8th godly emperor layer. Almost there, shouted Lu Ming furiously. He could sense that he was about to break through to the 8th godly emperor layer, but he still needed a little bit more, just a little bit more, kill. At this moment, there was a loud roar. A gigantic palm print came crashing down on Lu Ming, filled with a destructive power. It was the cultivator of the third great supreme god layer. Not good. Lu Ming's heart shook, and he hurriedly used the greater teleportation technique to leave. However, this time, his opponent was too close to him, and the use of the greater teleportation technique was not as smooth as before. It was as if he had fallen into a quagmire, and was slightly slower. However, in the end, Lu Ming still managed to cast it successfully. He was just a bit slower, and Lu Ming was still swept away by a wisp of destructive power. Lu Ming reappeared 1,000 li away. Half of his body had disappeared. He had been hit by that wisp of destructive power. What a terrifying destructive power. But is that guy a manifestation of the Great Destruction Technique? A thought emerged in Lu Ming's mind. The Great Destruction Technique was one of the top 3,000 ancient secret skills. It was ranked in the top 100. Once a cultivator mastered it, their movements would be filled with destructive power. However, Lu Ming had a forbidden body. Even if half of his body was destroyed, it didn't affect him too much. On the contrary, it stimulated his potential. His cells were constantly being stimulated, and his injuries were healing at an incredible speed. After using the greater teleportation technique, he used it a few more times to increase the distance between him and his opponent. He wanted more time to recover. All right. All of a sudden, Lu Ming was overjoyed. The spiritual intelligence of the remaining 6 secret skill runes in his hands had been obliterated. Lu Ming immediately put the 6 talismans into his 6 cells. The next moment, a surge of energy emerged from each of the 6 cells. Lu Ming immediately made use of this energy to break through to the next realm. Boom. This time, there was a booming sound coming from Lu Ming's body. Then, his aura skyrocketed rapidly. He had broken through. Lu Ming had finally broken through to the 8th godly emperor layer. After breaking through to the 8th godly emperor layer, Lu Ming's strength had increased dramatically. His forbidden strength had also increased. His body was recovering at an incredible speed. After breaking through to the 8th godly emperor layer, the half of his body that had been destroyed started recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. After a few seconds, his body was completely healed. This little boy, the others, including the cultivator of the 3rd great supreme god layer, were astonished. They couldn't believe their eyes. Then, they were filled with murderous intent. Die. I must kill this little boy, shouted the cultivator of the 3rd great supreme god layer. Then, he threw himself at Lu Ming again. His speed was astonishing. Wherever he passed, the space around him was destroyed. He turned into a wave of destruction and moved towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming had hesitated to break through to the 8th godly emperor layer. Now, it was too late for him to dodge. He could only face it head-on. Block it. Lu Ming took out the Bingxian rod and smashed it out. After breaking through to the 8th godly emperor layer, Lu Ming's fighting strength had increased tremendously. His mysterious ice staff was also much more powerful. Boom. The mysterious ice rod and the destructive force heavily clashed against each other, causing an earth-shattering explosion. The void where the collision occurred was completely turned into a chaotic mess. Afterward, the Bingxian rod vibrated continuously. Lu Ming's expression changed. He could feel a terrifying force surging toward him. His body retreated rapidly until he was thousands of miles away. Even so, there was still a gush of destructive force bombarding Lu Ming's body. However, Lu Ming had 2 layers of defense. The first layer was the first-tier Celestial Soldier's armor. However, the first-tier Celestial Soldier's armor had already blocked his opponent's attack, so it didn't have much defensive strength left. The other layer of defensive power was the defensive power of the Great Defensive Technique. In terms of defensive prowess, the Great Defensive Art was ranked in the top 3 among the 3,000 ancient secret skills. Naturally, its defensive prowess was extremely strong. However, under the power of destruction, the defense of the Great Defensive Technique was still penetrated. However, after the mysterious ice staff and the other layers of defense, the destructive strength had weakened a lot. The remaining strength couldn't injure Lu Ming. Lu Ming just coughed up blood. He was fine. The 3rd great supreme god layer is really strong. Even though I broke through to the 8th godly emperor layer and used the mysterious ice staff, I still can't compete with him. But I can still resist for a while. A thought flashed across Lu Ming's mind. Compared to before his breakthrough, his condition was already much better. With the strength of the 7th godly Emperor Leia, even if he used the mysterious ice staff, it would be difficult for him to resist. Chapter 41:35. Lu Ming guessed that if he broke through to the 9th godly Emperor Leia and used the mysterious ice rod, he would be able to compete with an ordinary cultivator of the 3rd great supreme god Leia. It's best to leave. Lu Ming didn't hesitate. After being pushed back, he immediately used the great teleportation technique to leave. His opponent only had the strength of the 3rd great supreme god Leia. If 2 or more came, he wouldn't be able to escape. Besides, using the mysterious ice rod with his full strength consumed a lot of energy. Besides, he had just broken through, so he needed time to stabilize his cultivation level. "You want to leave? Die!" shouted the cultivator of the 3rd great supreme god Leia furiously. He chased after Lu Ming. But he had the great destruction technique, so he was good at using destructive strength, not speed. After Lu Ming broke through to the 8th godly Emperor Leia, he used the great teleportation technique to increase his speed. In terms of speed, he was already faster than his opponent. As for those who had the strength of the 3rd great supreme god Leia and below, they didn't dare chase after Lu Ming. Just like that, one chased and the other ran away. Lu Ming constantly cast the transference skill, constantly changing his position. In particular, in an area with a complicated geographical position like the mountains, he could directly move behind a huge mountain, blocking the other party's line of sight. It would take some time for the other party to capture Lu Ming's exact location. In that case, the distance between the two of them would only increase. After a few hours, Lu Ming finally got rid of his opponent. But he didn't stop. He continued flying north. After flying for a long time, Lu Ming found a place to hide. Then, he took out a large amount of spiritual wood hearts and started absorbing them. The energy of the spiritual wood hearts penetrated into his body, healing his injuries and stabilizing his cultivation level. After a few more hours, Lu Ming's condition finally recovered to its peak. He felt refreshed. He had never felt so good before. He had already stabilized his cultivation level of the 8th godly Emperor Leia. The first-class celestial soldier armor hasn't fully recovered yet. "I need to leave first." Lu Ming's silhouette flickered and he left. He couldn't stay in one place for too long, otherwise, the ancient sorcerer shrine's people would find him. Lu Ming kept changing directions and slowly headed north. After a period of time, the defense of the 1st-grade celestial soldier armor was finally restored. Suddenly, Lu Ming sensed the space in front of him fluctuating. Lu Ming didn't hesitate. He used the great teleportation technique and retreated 10,000 li away. Shua shua shua. The void that Lu Ming had sensed earlier had been torn apart and more than 10 figures appeared there. A powerful aura burst out from Putian. One of them had the strength of the 3rd great supreme god Leia and the others had the strength of the 2nd great supreme god Leia. It seemed that the ancient sorcerer shrine had learned their lesson. They knew that a cultivator at the 1st stage of the Emperor God realm would be courting death in front of Lu Ming. Hence, they didn't send any cultivators at the 1st stage of the Emperor God realm. "Don't let him escape." B. Lu to Lu Ming Chi of Great Chi to heaven to heaven. Lu Ming's silhouette flickered. As he was about to retreat, he sensed the space behind him fluctuating violently. Lu Ming didn't hesitate and immediately moved to the right. As expected, a dozen silhouettes appeared behind him. The leader was also a cultivator of the 3rd layer of the Great Supreme God Realm. The others were all cultivators of the 2nd layer of the Great Supreme God Realm. There were already 2 cultivators of the 3rd layer of the Great Supreme God Realm. Lu Ming didn't know them. Obviously, the ancient sorcerer shrine had sent a large number of strong cultivators to deal with Lu Ming. The 2 groups of strong cultivators chased after Lu Ming. Lu Ming immediately used the great teleportation technique and teleported 10,000 li away. He wanted to teleport again, but suddenly, his expression changed drastically. Not far from him, the space suddenly exploded. A gigantic fist moved towards Lu Ming. It contained a terrifying destructive energy. "It's that guy. The great destruction technique. thought Lu Ming. He didn't stop moving. The mysterious ice rod was already in his hand. At that moment, he used all his strength to activate the mysterious ice rod. Boom! The mysterious ice rod collided with the gigantic fist and exploded violently. The mysterious ice rod shook unceasingly and quickly shrank. There was still a powerful destructive energy moving towards Lu Ming. However, the celestial soldier armor had already been activated. The powerful destructive energy bombarded the celestial soldier armor. The celestial soldier armor shook violently, but in the end, it blocked the attack. The celestial soldier armor could block a full attack of a cultivator of the third layer of the great supreme god realm. This time, even though the ancient sorcerer shrine had used all his strength, the mysterious ice rod had blocked more than half of the attack. The rest of the attack couldn't break the celestial soldier armor. Besides, the celestial soldier armor still had a lot of energy left. The celestial soldier armor could block many attacks of that level. Lu Ming finally let out a sigh of relief. With all kinds of weapons, Lu Ming wasn't as weak as he used to be when facing a cultivator of the third great supreme god layer. He could barely resist. At least, he had a better chance of escaping. With the help of this force, Lu Ming quickly retreated. Then, he used the great teleportation technique and reappeared 10,000 li away. A tall and sturdy figure appeared where Lu Ming had been standing. It was the great destruction technique. "Little brat, if you want her to die, keep running," shouted the great destruction technique coldly. He was holding a person in his hand. Lu Ming's figure suddenly paused. There was a cold murderous intent in his eyes. Because the great destruction technique was holding a woman, Sheng Qiao. That's right, the great destruction technique was holding Sheng Qiao. At that moment, Sheng Qiao's face was filled with hatred, madness, despair, and sadness. "Ancient sorcerer shrine, I curse you all, I curse you all," Sheng Qiao roared crazily. Her eyes were ferocious. "Shut up," the great destruction technique coldly shouted. A power burst out from his hand. Suddenly, Sheng Qiao's body went limp as if she had no strength left. "What did you do to her?" asked Lu Ming coldly. "I didn't do anything. Little brat, if you surrender, this little girl can still live. Otherwise, she will die in the next moment. I know you have a good relationship. Can you bear to watch her die?" said the great destruction technique coldly. "Mu Yun, don't worry about me. Go, go." At that moment, Sheng Qiao shouted again. "Sheng Qiao, what's going on?" shouted Lu Ming. "Dead, they're all dead. These bastards of the ancient sorcerer shrine destroyed the Sheng family. Because you stayed with Sheng Qiao for a while, they destroyed the Sheng family. Grandfather is dead. Everyone else is dead." Sheng Qiao shouted crazily. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The murderous intent in his eyes intensified. He had no relationship with the Sheng family. But just because he stayed with the Sheng family for a while, the ancient sorcerer shrine destroyed the Sheng family and took Sheng Qiao to threaten him. It was unforgivable. The killing intent in Lu Ming's heart was extremely strong. Chapter 41-36. Sheng Qiao, I'm sorry. I've implicated you. Lu Ming said. It's too late to say this now. Mu Yun, I only have one request now. Please avenge the Sheng family and make these beasts of the ancient shaman temple pay the price. Sheng Qiao roared. It would be a lie to say that she did not regret it. If she could choose again, Sheng Qiao would choose not to bring Lu Ming back to the Sheng family. But it was too late to regret now. She only had one thought, and that was revenge. But it was impossible for her to do it herself. She could only pin her hopes on Lu Ming. Don't worry, I promise you. I will do my best to make the ancient shaman temple pay the price. Lu Ming made a promise. It was all because of him that the Sheng family ended up like this, leading to disaster. Sheng Qiao had helped him out of kindness, but it ended up like this. Repaying kindness with kindness and revenge with revenge. This was Lu Ming's principle. Hearing Lu Ming's promise, Sheng Qiao's eyes finally showed a trace of relief. Kid, did you hear that? Hurry up and surrender. Otherwise, I'll kill this girl immediately. The great art of destruction shouted coldly, and the power of destruction spread out from his palm. A part of Sheng Qiao's body immediately turned grey, and the life force was dissipating. "Stop!" Lu Ming shouted. "Mu Yun, leave quickly. Don't worry about me," Sheng Qiao roared. At this moment, the experts from the other forces had already arrived. However, they did not approach. Instead, they used their power to seal the void and freeze the space. Because they knew the power of the great teleportation technique very well. As soon as they approached, Lu Ming could use the great teleportation technique to directly pass by them. Only by sealing the void could they stop Lu Ming. "Kid, why aren't you surrendering?" The great art of destruction spoke again, his eyes revealing ferocious killing intent. "Okay, I surrender." At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly said. "No, Mu Yun, don't surrender," Sheng Qiao shouted. "Little girl, shut up." The great art of destruction shouted coldly, and a power entered Sheng Qiao's body, making it difficult for her to speak. At this moment, Lu Ming moved. His figure flashed and disappeared from the spot. In the next moment, he appeared above the great art of destruction. Boom! The mysterious ice staff attacked with all its might, smashing down on the great art of destruction. The great art of destruction was slightly taken aback. Clearly, he had not expected Lu Ming to attack right after saying that he would surrender. While he was distracted, he missed the opportunity. Although he made a move in time, he was unable to mobilize his strength to its peak. Boom! He struck out with his palm, and a destructive palm energy bombarded the mysterious ice staff. Because great destruction had been hastily executed, he had not gathered all of his strength. After exchanging a blow with Lu Ming, he was immediately forced to retreat. He loosened his grip on Sheng Qiao's hand. "Good chance." Lu Ming's eyes lit up, and he reached out to grab Sheng Qiao. Lu Ming suddenly made a move because he wanted to save Sheng Qiao. "Mu Yun, hurry up and leave. Remember what you promised me." At this time, Sheng Qiao looked seriously at Lu Ming. Suddenly, rays of light shot out from her body. "No," Lu Ming was startled. Sheng Qiao was going to burn herself and destroy herself. "You won't be able to escape if you take me with you. Hurry up and leave. Remember, avenge me." While Sheng Qiao was talking, her body started to self-destruct. She turned into a rain of light and dissipated in the air. "Damn it!" The great art of destruction roared. He struck out with his palm, and a violent energy surged towards Lu Ming. Everything in its path was destroyed. Sheng Qiao's body also turned into a rain of light and dissipated under the destructive energy. Boom! Lu Ming struck with the Bingxian rod, blocking the other party's land of destruction and retreating rapidly. "Stop him. He's going to escape." The great art of destruction roared and attacked Lu Ming crazily. At the same time, the other three cultivators of the third great supreme god layer also attacked Lu Ming. Two terrifying attacks came from two different directions towards Lu Ming. At that moment, Lu Ming's hair stood on end. The three experts of the third layer of the Emperor God Realm were attacking at the same time. Their power was too terrifying. It was fatal to Lu Ming. "Let's go all out." At this moment, Lu Ming's eyes revealed a trace of viciousness. In such a situation, he had no choice but to go all out. Lu Ming held the Zephyr Pearl in his left hand and the mysterious ice staff in his right. Whoosh! First, the Zephyr Pearl released a strong wind which turned into a wind blade and moved towards the great art of destruction. Then, the mysterious ice staff also moved towards the great art of destruction. The two attacks collided with the great art of destruction. As for the other two cultivators of the third great supreme god layer, he didn't have time to deal with them. He could only rely on his armor and the great art of defense. An Qiu Qiu. Qiu Qiu had come in with Lu Ming. After all, Qiu Qiu only had the strength of the top of the ninth godly emperor layer. Qiu Qiu turned into an armor and covered Lu Ming's body. Boom boom, a series of explosions erupted. Lu Ming's attack collided with the great art of destruction's attack, creating waves that filled the sky. After their attacks collided, the two cultivators of the third great supreme god layer also attacked Lu Ming. The two strong cultivators had joined hands to attack. They were too strong. The celestial soldier's armor had already consumed a lot of energy, and now the two cultivators of the third great supreme god layer had attacked it together. Then, it was the great defense technique and Little Ball's turn. Even so, Lu Ming was still injured. His body flew forward like a meteor. Up ahead was the great art of destruction. The great art of destruction had clashed with Lu Ming. He had initially held the upper hand. He had thought that he would be able to send Lu Ming flying. However, the two experts behind him had bombarded Lu Ming, and had sent him flying. This time, the great art of destruction was caught off guard, and Lu Ming crashed into it head-on. He couldn't help but retreat repeatedly. Die for me. By the time he reacted and wanted to kill Lu Ming had already seized the opportunity to use the great teleportation technique. He disappeared from his original spot and reappeared 10,000 li behind the great art of destruction. This was Lu Ming's escape route. The other directions were all sealed. Even with the greater teleportation technique, he couldn't teleport out. Only the space around the great art of destruction wasn't sealed. Therefore, Lu Ming didn't hesitate to use all his strength to charge towards the great art of destruction. Finally, Lu Ming managed to escape. However, Lu Ming had also paid a great price. The celestial soldier's armor couldn't be used for the time being. Its energy was completely depleted, and the armor itself was heavily injured. In addition, he had used the mysterious ice rod, the Zephyr Pearl, the celestial soldier's armor, and several ancient secret techniques at the same time. This had consumed a lot of his energy. He didn't have much taboo energy left. However, he had managed to break out of the encirclement. Once out of the encirclement, Lu Ming didn't stop. He continued to use the great teleportation technique to move forward. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.